All right, guys, heads up, tech alert, nerd out alert. We are diving into how blockchain technology will power the future of both funding and selling books. Now, before we dive into the details in this video today, please like, subscribe, do all the things we need you to do to reach more people on YouTube. So, as a personal brand strategy firm, we're working with thought leaders, across every sector of the economy on a daily basis. And so naturally, that means that a lot of these people are interested in packaging some of their ideas into book form and using that to, build more authority, kind of reach a broader audience at a lower price point, grow their platform, and ultimately use all that to drive traffic back to some other set of products or services where they make more money. But what's interesting is, as I've just been doing my personal research around the intersection of personal branding and blockchain technology, or just Web3, and everything that is part of that, NFTs, crypto, et cetera, right? You pick your buzzword you want to plug in. Um, what's become kind of clear to me and really kind of piqued my interest was how blockchain technology can actually transform and support certain aspects of how we both write and distribute or sell books. And before we dive in, I have to just remember to advise you, none of this is financial advice. We're in the super early days of all of this technology. So take it with a grain of salt. I'm sharing what I'm learning as I'm learning it. So odds are some of this may change drastically, a day, a week, a month, a year from now for sure. So, but what's cool is that there's no question that some of these new blockchain capabilities are unlocking certain abilities that we just don't have before. We never had, and so what's just been cool for me is trying to wrap my head around what those capabilities are and kind of cross-reference them with just best practices of doing whatever in this world of personal branding that we're in. And as I do that, there's times where it's kind of like, oh, cool, that's kind of a neat intersection where I think this new tech can really kind of not just like do what we need to do or are doing now the same way, but actually like level it up, help us do it in an even better way. So what's cool, I want to start with the funding side of this first. You may not be familiar with how books go down and kind of the different ways they get created, but at a very high level, it's important to understand that there's kind of like self-published books, right? So like I'm just going to pay to take my ideas and get it packaged in a book and sell it. And then there's like a traditional publishing deal where it's like, hey, I've got an idea, I put a proposal together, I pitch, different publishing houses, and one of them or multiple may be like, hey, that's a great idea. We think you've got a great idea. Plus, you have a platform that can help us move a lot of units. So we're going to give you a book deal, right? We're going to give you an advance of X amount of money to write it. And then we're ultimately going to bring it to market. And because we gave you some money on the front end, we're going to get a piece of the action. They own a percentage of the book rights and all the things. They get a percentage of the action. So think of them as having a fractional ownership stake in that book, right? That content and the money that is made from it. And naturally, so they're going to give you some money on the front end to help make it come alive, and then they're going to obviously have long-term access to a percentage of the revenues. So at the beginning, it's pretty clear, like if you don't have a big platform, not able to kind of like move a lot of units, you're typically not going to be able to get those traditional publishing deals. But that doesn't mean you don't have great ideas. And so that's where I've kind of, I guess, stumbled across, or just kind of it's become more clear to me that there's an opportunity on the front end to leverage some of these capabilities of blockchain to actually get an injection of funding on the front end to help make a book come alive. So to write a book, to get it published, et cetera, all the things to launch it, especially, and try to sell a lot of units, it's not free, right? It takes time, money, effort. So how are you going to pay for all that? Ideally, if you had some outside funding source come in to help you do that, then that's great. That's ideal. It's going to help you put a better product out, do it in a shorter period of time, and all those things. But what's cool is even we're already starting to see some of this come to market on the music side in the music industry. So there's a platform called Royal.io. And this platform is basically geared around royalties. And it lets like Nas is a hip hop artist, and I'm sure there's many others out there now, but they basically said like, hey, I've got this idea for a new album, and I'm actually gonna take the idea for these songs and the album, right? And I'm gonna put it out in a place where the community, his audience, can buy in and actually say, hey, like I'm willing to pay some money, into the pot, let's call it. I'm willing to give Nas some money, to make that album come alive, right? Record it, do all the things that are required. And as a result of that, I'm now a fractional owner through the NFT that I hold of that track or that album, right? And then obviously as it gets brought to market and hopefully we sell a bunch of units, or get a bunch of streams, etc., then my NFT grants me certain, access to a percentage of the revenues, right, that come in through that, just like the traditional deal almost. But it's think of it as crowdsourcing it, right? It's like, hey, I've got an idea. I need funding to make it come alive. For whatever reason, I want to choose to open up the investment opportunity to the masses, like anybody that wants to buy in, get in, right? If you believe in me, the quality of work I put out, you think this is gonna, we're gonna see an uptick in demand for this, which is gonna drive a lot of sales, which is gonna mean you're gonna get a lot of money back based on your initial investment, then there's an investment opportunity here. And what's really cool is the ability to take something and quickly and easily fractionalize it and offer that kind of fractionalized ownership up for purchase and then even resale there's not really been an easy way to do that at scale historically. But with blockchain and NFTs and just some of this new capability, you can now do that. And we're seeing it happening with music at Royal.io. And there's not really any reason we couldn't take that same approach on the book side, is that, hey, I've got an idea for a book. For whatever reason, I actually want to let my audience fund it. I'd rather let people that I think are gonna, believe in me, be an active promoter in what I'm doing to drive demand and sales of this. I want to give them the opportunity to buy in to this kind of work, right? One that's going to be an injection of kind of capital on the front end to buy the NFT, to buy that percentage ownership of this book, let's call it. That upfront capital can then be used to pay for all the things that need to happen to develop the book, get it published, bring it to market. And then obviously as we go to sell it, then the NFT holders or the people that bought in on the front end are going to get their access to a percentage of the sales. So think of it as kind of the traditional book publishing model, but rather than just trying to rely on this central entity to fund it, you're basically crowdsourcing it, and you can do it pretty quickly and easily with the right platforms are in place. So I think that's been the first thing on the front end of the journey, is just saying, hey, there's some interesting opportunities here about taking the fundamentals of how books get funded, right, and decentralizing them, right? Saying like, hey, I don't want to just rely on this centralized entity to say yes or no and fund it. If I've got a big enough platform or whatever it is, like I can actually put something out there, let the community buy in, fund it, I'll bring it to market, and I'm going to share the money with you guys instead of a big publishing house. So it's just one interesting thing on the front end. The second kind of interesting aspect is that, all right, cool, we've funded it, we are now working on it, and now we need to sell it. Okay, great. Like, and that frankly is a big reason that you get the big deals, and then they help leverage their relationships and their influence to help promote and drive a lot of sales, right? Nothing wrong with that. It's a great model. But what's also interesting is saying, okay, now when we flip to launching and selling the book, now that it's out, right? Because the masses, because your community or a percentage of your community has got fractional ownership in the book, they naturally are incentivized even more to want to promote it, right? Now, keep in mind, you already need to leverage your community to move units. Like, having an inner circle, having a street team, having a launch team, these people that are bought in, they love you, they're your super fans, they're willing to help promote your book. Like, you need that, period, right? That's part of any type of best-selling book launch. But when they have the additional incentive of having a percentage ownership, right, in some amount of the sales of the book, right, that immediately takes their incentives to the next level, right, because they're now a fractional owner. And so I think for me, if you have the community and can activate them, this is going to be really powerful to look at how can I how can I give my community a piece of the pie, and then incentivize them even more to go out and do what they can do as almost micro influencers or macro influencers or whatever you want to kind of think about them, to help promote this both short term and long term, because the more they do to share the word and drive sales of the book, the more that drives up not only the money they get through a percentage of book sales, but the value of their shares or their fractional ownership stake, which, by the way, they can always resell on a secondary market and make the same or more or potentially less back, downstream. So I think it's just a really, in the most simplistic way, it's again this idea of decentralizing rather than working through one entity to fund and then help promote. It's kind of like saying, how do we take the mechanics of that upfront funding to make it come alive, back end promo to help sell it, and distributing that, decentralizing that across a lot of people, right? So I think the tech is there. It's early days, so like TBD on when this becomes really easy and accessible to everybody. But I think the underlying tech is there to make this become a reality. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. If it becomes like, an option, a legit option that's available for people and they do it. And if that even happens, what are the results? Are they more effective, less effective than these other mechanisms? So it should be interesting, that's for sure. I'm continuing to kind of just try to learn as much as I can to keep my finger on the pulse of this. But just wanted to share that as far as understanding what are some of the ways that blockchain technology, especially as we transition into kind of Web 3.0, could potentially power how you both fund, right, and ultimately sell books. So if you found this valuable, would love so much for you to share it with your network. Comment below if you have any thoughts on this. Again, don't pretend to understand all the ins and outs of all of this, but just finding some interesting intersections that are hopefully valuable to you, and would love to hear what you're thinking as well.